cut off. So what I've been talking about is how we're going through life, Muslims going through life, assuming that our Islam is okay, and our Islam is not okay. And our masajid are going about their business, assuming that they're doing okay, and they're not doing okay. And our imams are also helping to perpetuate the assumption and the illusion that we have Islam, but what we're doing is quasi-Islam. Okay? And I was talking about, okay, how do we get out of it? And was talking about how every Muslim has to learn Islam, and then how going to the masjid and going through the masjid program, you won't learn Islam. You actually have to study Islam. And because even when the imams go through their programs of learning, they're not coming out with the qualifications they need for Islam because we have to build Islam here, okay? So then that's the issue is that you have to have different kinds of leadership in the community. You've got to have, a kind of leadership about people, okay, which is like psychology and sociology, okay? And you have to have organizational leaders, and you have to have your analysts, okay? And honestly, someone who can analyze not just an organization, but like an entire community, all right? And the education for the Muslim has to be focused because you can't take 4 or 5, because like a full Islamic qualification is like 20 years. Okay, nobody's going to do that. Our imams aren't even doing that, okay? And the average everyday Muslim is also not going to learn Islam full-time for 4, 5, 6, 8 years. You've got to have a focused program that cuts out the fluff. Okay, the 99% of the details that we don't need to actually have an Islamic intelligence, because Muslims don't have time for all those details. And so if the masajid and the imams are going to continue with the way that you're doing right now, which is the same way that you've been doing for 45 years, then you're helping to perpetuate the failure of Islam and the failure of the community. And we're at a point, a very dangerous point, because when Muslims fail badly enough, because we're not talking about small failures here, we're talking about massive failure at the most primary missions of Allah's deen. And our community is an absolute failure at it. Okay? Then it becomes an issue of, should Allah even leave Muslims living on the earth now? And when we see that Allah has brought the means of destruction to most of the Muslim world, and we're seeing now indications that Allah may be bringing a means to destroy Muslims here in the United States and in Europe, because the Muslims here have completely failed, and this is substantiated by observing really what happens in the community, really, okay, and then by knowing what the objectives and the missions of Allah's deen are. And because we are a community of quasi-Islam, there are very few people in the community who can even get it right. Okay? Very few people in the community who can sit down and list, boom, 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 these are the major missions of the deen, and on this one we failed 90%, on this one we failed 80%, on this one we haven't done anything at all, this one we're failing about half, okay? So we don't even have people who have like the Islamo-analytical skills, okay? Okay, we're screwed, all right, without making serious changes. Um, and so then the other then so having an appropriate educational program for the everyday Muslim, obligatory on every Muslim to take it, is part of the solution that we have to have because Muslims don't even know that they're failing or why they're failing. And even the Imams don't know it. Okay? Um, but then it comes to another issue, which is, and I'm going to give like a perfect example of quasi Islam. And you can see it every Jummah. Okay? Because I mentioned earlier that our community since the early 70s, when one of the first masajid was built, the Richardson Masjid, we've had over 2,300 Jummahs. Okay? That means 2,300 weeks. Every week has 168 hours. And Allah has built His deen on amal. Okay, it means work. Work to establish Allah's deen. Not sit in the masjid and listen to somebody talk. Okay, that is quasi-Islam. Okay, real Islam is based on amal. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Okay, you must make the effort to establish Allah's deen. So let's talk about Jummah. What happens on Jummah? Muslims get cleaned up and they know it's the special day and they come to the masjid with, a good attitude and, I'm doing an obligation for my deen. And they're going to make salah and then, sunnah salah and sit down. And the imam's going to give some talk and it'll be some random talk, okay? Not a focused talk on actually the roots of our problems, okay? And it'll go on 30 or 45 minutes, and then they'll make Salat al-Jum'ah, and then there'll be a few announcements, and then everybody will disperse. And they will disperse believing that they have fulfilled their obligations to deen. That is quasi-Islam in our masajid that has permeated the life of every Muslim here. Contrast that with another potential, which is reformat your Friday program. You can make the khutbah and you can make the khutbah and Salat al-Jum'ah in 10 minutes. Okay? And use 30 or 45 minutes to talk about which problem you're going to work on in the community and ask as many Muslims to stay behind as you can and use an hour or so to organize working groups in the community to do 2 or 3 or 4 hours that weekend or in the next week on something that has to be established or some problem that has to be fixed in the community. Wow. Okay? We change one of our habits that we never thought about, which is Jumu'ah and the way we do it, replaced it with a better program, and now we're moving away from quasi-Islam and towards actual Islam. Allah Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Okay? And honestly, that's just like one example. Because, and I every year I get into this about Salat al-Taraweeh. Okay? Taraweeh is not fard. And all that time that people spend making Taraweeh could be used working on something that is much more important in Islam. Okay? But like just to give an example of how much is being lost, okay, so I did like a calculation of how many adult or older teen Muslims, and I just came up with a number of say 70,000 in DFW, okay? Multiply that by, 4 hours a week, okay, so now you're up to 280,000 man hours a week. That's over, well over, that's like what, okay, where am I? Okay, so we're over 1 million man hours a month, okay, like 1.1 million or something. And in 12 months, okay, so you're talking about, 15 million man hours. And for some reason earlier I did a calculation, it was like way more than that. It was like 70 million man hours. I don't know. But I mean, seriously, sit down and do the calculation. That's how much work and the work that has been lost the last 45 years because Muslims do the Quasi-Islam program every Friday. It's astronomical. It's astronomical. Millions and millions and and hundreds of millions of hours that could have been spent working to establish things in the community were lost because we went through a habitual Friday program and spent 45 years not even thinking about what the hell we were doing. Okay, that is Quasi-Islam. All right? Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.